I think I was actually 17 because we bought them illegally. But we always had a high regard for human life. So I never really used my guns with the idea of killing anyone or hurting anyone. But I soon found out the power of pointing a gun at someone and having the power to, to control, to scare, kidnapping charges. And I read on the back of my concealed weapons permit, if you point a gun at someone, you can face up to 5 years. And I got 4 of those, so.
Day rooms are now closed, so.
I've been locked up since I was 18 years old. And that's 16 years. I'm 34 going on 35. I'm currently locked up for first-degree attempted robbery and first-degree murder. I looked at my situation and I said, this is a real serious situation that I'm in. And life in general is serious. I need to do something to change myself. When I look myself in the mirror, I know that I want to see a better person.
The difficulties in teaching in a prison is the environment, the culture of prison. We're dealing with rapists, killers, child molesters, people that are stratified, and then we have a lot of gangs. So if I was to ask you, hey, we're going to bring in 18 to 19-year-old students to a prison, we're going to have them sit down with inmates in a class setting, and they're going to be able to have a great debate at the end of it, most people would probably say you're crazy.
Wear nothing that's low cut, nothing that's see-through, nothing that is too tight. No short skirts, no boots that come up to your thighs.
I'll ask him about it when we go talk to him again too. Talking about the past criminal records because we're going to be with the inmates and stuff. Yeah. A lot of prisons are portrayed as very violent, like there's always riots or there's always something going on that's going to lock down the prison. Going in the first time, it was just kind of nerve-wracking, if certain people weren't going to be nice. So it's just, we got our worries.
Okay. So you guys signing in and...
The basis of this project is, as criminal justice students, we're going to go out into the real world and we'll be working with people like these prisoners for the rest of our lives. And if we get the notion now that they're human beings, they have rights too, then I think it's going to be beneficial for the system in general.
Well, one thing about Eastern Washington is, there's a lot of driving, but it's usually nice driving, beautiful driving. One of the things that I talk a lot about is this idea that debate teaches us to be humble. It teaches us to overcome our own ego, because we have no choice but to acknowledge, even if we don't agree with another person's perspective, that perspective exists. And there's literature about the personality types that find themselves incarcerated. There's a lack of flexibility in the thinking. The inability to acknowledge the other person, whether or not you agree, is dangerous in my opinion. And from what I've seen from the individuals incarcerated, it seems to be a common trait. It's nice to see everyone. Is it a little warm? Can someone crack a window? That's the obligatory prison joke. It's not going to continue.
This could have went wrong a couple times. Like Dr. Wilden was talking to one guy, and this guy was so mad about, Wilden smashing his paper. Wilden's like, yeah, no good, go back, rewrite it. This guy was like, well, you're just biased, and he's getting super mad. But Wilden is not aware of really how things are in here. So he just goes right on like, oh, I'm sorry, am I disturbing you somehow? Maybe you can go complain to Congress. And he's telling this guy, well, on the streets, yeah, you probably get talked to like that. But it was that persistence that actually changed us.
They were talking about this being maybe the last debate club, we're not sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, because this is so beneficial to us here.
Well, and to us too, yeah.
I don't think you guys understand the position you're really in.
I didn't really like the subject of the debate. I wanted to debate whether bald is beautiful or not.
When we think about debate, we're thinking of changing the way students think, because the reason they're here is because they made a bad decision. And somehow, the logic that they used failed them.
We're going to say, look, we can't stop all firearms from getting in the wrong hands. That's impossible.
Stolen.
Also, you could even put, look, we don't know why people even stole those guns when they could just go to a gun show and buy one without a background check.
Nice.
Yes. We were debating about gun violence and the best way to stop it. And my side on the pro, we were debating that we should use background checks and state-based annual registrations to stop gun violence. And the con said that these two things are infringements on your Second Amendment rights.
Well, at the end of the day, our goal is to win.
Yes.
But they look demoralized already. Look at that.
Access to firearms is a big problem, and how do we know? Because I had them. Everybody in that room had gun crimes, and we all know how to get them. And we weren't stealing them. So some were, but I didn't.
So a key part of this whole program is that you have to argue against your perspective. So please keep that in mind. Not only have they have to come up with a strong argument, but they've had to argue against their own personal view.
What do we want for America?
So he wants people to critically think by looking at all the different viewpoints. And he thinks that only then can you truly be informed.
It just makes sense to allow someone to defend their person or family against harm. But with all rights exercised comes a responsibility not to abuse those rights. Essentially, freedom is not free.
The paradox is that any criminal justice system tends to create the conditions by which people are dehumanized. A student told me, you know, the walls that keep us out also keep people from coming in. And so what we're trying to do through this project is hopefully encourage those students to use their time a little more productively and maybe breaking down those walls, allowing those ideas to flow back and forth, not punishing them by denying their own humanity to be able to converse. Being tough on crime can't just mean that we lock people away for 10 or 20 or 30 years. It has to mean that we take responsibility for the fact that they're coming back to our communities. Look, the only way to be safe is to know what's going to happen with these guys when they get back.
There's oftentimes a sense in the community that our prisons are not harsh enough, but we really have to decide what do we want to accomplish with our prisons.
I get caught up in some of the depression here every now and then because it does wear on you.
When we tend to be punitive, we tend to want to create environments that are pretty harsh and sometimes hostile. But we know that all of our research tells us that that does not reduce recidivism, and sometimes it actually increases recidivism. But when inmates participate in programs, education and vocational training, they come out the other end much less likely to reoffend.
If you think that you're safer with people like us out there without an education, that's amazing, because I know what we used to do. And it's interesting because people might think, oh, you're just beefing up the program, right? No, go out in the units. Watch people that you don't know they're watching that are in the program. Watch what they do. You're talking about gang members. You're talking about very violent people that have done very bad things that now no longer want to do those things. Do you know what that does to a person to think, I'm gonna be cool now?
Being in the prison has really reminded me about why it is I love teaching. The guys inside see education as an incredible opportunity because many of them had never had an opportunity. They're hungry for it. They come to class prepared with reams of questions. They're really interested in engaging and thinking and contesting the material in a way that, in my experience, I don't see very often on main campus.
A further requirement of annual background checks and annual registration for gun ownership should be understood as a direct infringement upon the rights of law-abiding citizens.
You grow up emulating people that have nice cars, they sell drugs and they get all this money. There is no way that you're doing something different than that. But we're hearing things we've never heard before. And you start to think like, wow, I want to do that. And so they are models on, well, here's how you do that. And so that's rehabilitation.
Did you guys think, or did you have like preconceived notions about what it would be like coming in here? Because we had ours too with you guys.
At first, it was fear. Of course, I was a little bit nervous. You know, they are prisoners, they are here, but they also have the same goals that we have. They're doing the same thing that we are. We're just doing it in 2 different places.
Well, we got to leave.
You did amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love how you went up there and it was like it was from memory.
So just remember where you were at and kind of what you've seen, especially if you get into like criminal justice or something like that. So it's very important.
Because we're talking about gun control, right? I was kind of curious as to, within the debate club here, how many people, if you're willing to disclose, actually utilize a firearm in the commission of a crime.
Show our hands.
Like, yeah, show of hands or something.
I think there's one thing that goes unsaid for a lot of us in here, and that is having remorse. You know, don't get it wrong. I've harmed people. A lot of the people in the debate club have harmed people, and I can't speak for them. But a lot of what I do is driven from that. And I have so many elaborate plans I've worked on over 10 years and whatnot. And my biggest fear is that I've started too late. And that's it.
I think for me, the biggest thing has been that it's very humanizing going through this process. There's a lot of stuff in prison in general that kind of treats you like you're just subhuman. This gives us a chance to do something that's building ourselves up instead of just wasting away.
One of the things that I think most of us in this program have learned to do is to evolve. And you know, I spent a serious amount of time in here. My first decade in here, I was as big of a management problem as they've had. And I was influencing others to be that same way. And as I've evolved after close to 7 years in IMU in lockdown, I've realized that I can't keep doing that and claim to love the people that I love. If we love people out there, we can't keep perpetuating the criminal mentality. And it's hard in here because you're fighting a tide that's almost immovable. Since you're leaving, I'm gonna bash you with this again. My favorite aspect of this program, Doc, is I was so impressed by Plato's Symposium, that format. It was a true exchange of knowledge and ideas and people's beliefs. And that's what we're missing, especially in Western thinking, is a respectful exchange.